Welcome. I hope you are having a wonderful night, dear viewer. Tonight, I will be telling some terrifyingly scary stories. Make sure to leave your feedback on the comments so I can make this the best experience for you. And if you have any stories you would like me to tell, you can send them through the link in the description. Let's begin. Story 1. Don't Google yourself. Why? Because you may not like what you find. One day, I was bored and decided to search for my own name on Google. I have quite a rare name, so I didn't expect to find many results. Imagine how surprised I was when I came across a website that had my full name in the domain. When I clicked the link, it brought me to a message board. I looked at the profile of the website owner and found out that the person was the same age as me and had the same hobbies and interests. There weren't any posts on the message board, but I was intrigued, so I saved it in my favorites. It was about a month later when I went back to the website. This time, it had more content. There were some diary entries, mostly random things like the weather was nice today, or I'm so bored in work. Things of that nature. However, as time went on, I began to notice more and more coincidences. The person lived in the same city as I did. It struck me as rather strange that two people with the exact same rare name would be living in the same city at the same time. At one point, I noticed that the contents of the diary were quite similar to my own life. One day, I went to a baseball game, and when I checked the website that evening, I found that the owner of the site had gone to the same ball game. At first, I didn't think much of it. After all, tens of thousands of people in the city supported the same baseball team. It began to seem like much more than a simple coincidence. Whenever I checked the website, I would notice little biographical details that seemed too close for comfort. For example, the owner mentioned their pet dog, and the dog's name was the same as the dog I had when I was a child. The website owner posted a picture of their car. It was the same model of car I had been driving when I was in college. They talked about eating at a certain restaurant. It was the same restaurant I had gone to all the time when I was working at my previous job. One day, when I looked at the message board, people had written messages to the owner saying happy birthday. That day, it was my birthday as well. I decided to write on the message board for the first time, just out of curiosity. I was going to wish the owner a happy birthday and tell them we had the same name. However, when I tried to write something, I realized that there was nowhere to type your message. It wasn't a message board at all, just a static page. That's odd, I thought to myself. In other words, whoever owned the website had gone to a lot of trouble to make it seem as if it was an interactive site, as if there were other people posting on it, when in actual fact, all the content must have been created by the owner. Why on earth would someone do that, I wondered. I decided to send an email to the owner. It read, "Hi there. Believe it or not, we both share the same name. Nice to meet you." It was just a friendly email. The next day, when I tried to look at the website, I discovered that it was gone. It seemed like it had been deleted. Then, I opened my mailbox. There was one reply. When I looked at it, a chill ran down my spine. It just read, "Found you." Story 2. When I stepped out the confines of my room, I immediately picked up on the lack of any noise that would assault my auditory senses on a regular basis. My father wasn't snoring, still asleep at 12 p.m., and my sister wasn't downstairs, watching the television at a blaringly loud volume as per usual. The only slight modicum of noise I detected came from my own unsteady breath and heartbeat. Each step I took down the stairs would fill my head with the creaking noises of the aged wood they were made of, with the next step feeling louder than the last. I reached the end, turning my head to the right in the direction of the barren living room. Only then had I seen the outside of the house, through a window peering to the backyard. The sky was a dull, unsatisfying light brown, The foliage of the garden was replaced by the rampant growths of fungi that surrounded the area. I opened the backyard door to investigate. Taking a few steps off the porch, my pale skin was never struck with the comforting rays of sunlight that would be usual in the temperate summer season. No, there wasn't even a sun in sight. There are no birds in the sky, nor clouds, nor planes. Only an infinite expanse of a dreary light brown. Detached from my surroundings, staring up at the sky, I take a few more steps forward only to get my foot caught on an unidentified bump, blocking my progression. I fell to the ground and felt the dry, dead grass over the side of my body that I now lie on. My eyes were closed, and I kept them that way for a few moments. Then I opened my eyes, which revealed the corpses of my sister and father lying on the ground, the same as me. They were shrouded in a horrible myriad of fungi and thin root-like extensions. Their faces were so horribly expressive of complete and utter suffering that my eyes began to tear up. Only then, when I tried lifting myself to wipe the tears flooding from my face, I realized that I was becoming struck by paralysis. I could feel something digging into my skin, implanting itself, feeding. And the most I could do was weakly flail my arm around in utter agony. Every receptor in my body responsible for pain is firing as rapidly as possible. I'm experiencing a living hell, each moment worse than the last. I dragged my phone out my pocket in a slow, unsteady manner, phoning for help as quickly as I could. Not a single person answered my calls. I write this now, while my joints are becoming more and more stale by the second, in an effort to prevent anyone else from befalling the same gut-wrenching fate. Please, if the sky is brown, please. If there's no noise around you, please. If you can't spot any greenery, stay indoors. Can barely move fingers. I see now. The pain. They feel it too. They're still alive. Story 3. I currently live in a smaller, ruralish town. It's pretty removed, but still has a lot of good shopping and eating options and public spaces. We even have a few breweries and bars now. It's a newly hip place, with farming on the outskirts so I can get my eggs and veggies fresh from the source. The pandemic really hurt business locally though, and pretty much the only regular delivery options were Walmart and Amazon for a minute. I was pretty stoked when much later, more local options popped up on various apps. However, at this time, for main necessities and grocery items, there weren't any options besides getting a store delivery from the Walmart a town over. This meant a lot of people we didn't know well popping through, and it drove some of the older folks crazy. They were all over the neighborhood, talking about cars and people they didn't recognize, etc. I embraced it. It made my life easier. So, at this point, I lived with my teenage son who was a gangly 6'4", and my then boyfriend was staying to be near his elderly parents. He's 6'3" and broadly built. It's a tiny space, and I felt a little cramped with the big guys always around. So once in a while, I'd send them off on an errand, or they'd visit my boyfriend's parents and give me some space to work on things, or just enjoy being alone. One of those days, I got a delivery. I recognized the guy and said hi, tipped him well, went about my life. An hour later, he was back at my door. He was kind of weird, creepy, because I have steps in front of my door, but no porch. He would knock and stand beside the steps where I couldn't see him through the eye hole, but I could see him through my window. He was next to. So I talked through the window like, "Soup, can I help you? I have window film over the lower window for privacy, but I can stand on my couch and see through the upper window above people's heads and see outside. And the upper window pulls down too to let in air multiple ways." He kept trying to look for where my voice was coming from before answering and telling me he forgot a bag in the delivery. I confirmed I got it all and thanked him. He left. I didn't want to open the door again after he noticed I was alone. I got new neighbors directly in the unit across from me. They got a Ring camera. She reached out to me and told me someone came by knocking and had sat on my steps for about half an hour. I was down at my boyfriend's house with my son at the time, and she sent me the ring cam stills. It looked like that guy, and it was like 8 p.m. I didn't have any open orders either. I reached out to Walmart, and they were totally unhelpful. They told me they'd be making sure he didn't deliver anything to me in the future, but wouldn't give me any info I could pass on to security or the police in case anything further happened. I wanted to at least file a report with my security in case anything happened again, because it felt really weird. But they told me the police would need to reach out. I had the feeling it would escalate, and it did. I didn't want to be home alone anymore. I didn't order delivery. I just tried to cover my bases. However, my neighbor did order a delivery, and somehow it came through that guy again. So he was in the property anyway, and just 3 feet away from my door. The creepy thing was, I heard it being dropped off and had the urge to look through the peephole and saw him standing right in front of my stairs, looking around my door and living room windows. He stood there for like 5 minutes until my neighbor opened the door to get her groceries. And I told her, that's the guy from the Ring camera. She contacted Walmart too, and asked that he doesn't deliver anything anymore. A few weeks went by, and Christmas was around the corner. I had ordered a few items from Amazon, and they were all arriving together. I knew they were on my front porch. I could hear them being dropped, and the delivery guy knocked. I saw him walk off. My boyfriend was on the couch with his headphones on, working, and I was cooking dinner. I figured I'd grab them in a moment. They're fine on my steps at the moment. There's a camera there. If anything happens, it'll be 5 minutes tops. I finished plating and brought the food in. And as I was setting the plates down, the front door knob, which wasn't locked, gave a tiny turn. The deadbolt was still latched, but the knob wasn't, and I could hear it. My boyfriend couldn't. I stopped and pointed it out. My boyfriend is completely oblivious to these kinds of things. He took his headphones off, peeking through the top window, and said, "Oh, you must be hearing things. No one's touching your doorknob. There's no one out there." He walked over and ripped the door open to show me that there's nothing there. But there's the guy again, crouched up against the wall under the window, hands still on the knob, trying to turn it silently. He looked mortified to see him opening the door, and when my son came up too, he looked really confused. He asked for me. He must have known my name from the deliveries because he used the name I have on my account, which isn't the name everyone knows me by. My boyfriend asked what he needed, and the guy reached down, picked up the Amazon box and said, "Delivery," and handed it off, and then left. It was really strange. I explained to my boyfriend that he was not delivering those boxes. They were already there. We took the footage to the police, and I tried to reach out to Walmart. The police told me they reached out to Walmart and just got a bunch of clueless basic customer service agents with no idea how to proceed, and that if he came back, I need to call them ASAP so they can get to him in person. I was really scared though. I was glad he knew I wasn't in the house alone now, but I felt like he might take more drastic measures knowing that too. I didn't know how people like that think, so I was just running through every possible scenario. The sprinkler system automatically kicks in at 11 p.m. It cycles through the plot of land for an hour. It starts at my bedroom wall, which faces the parking lot. By midnight, it's gone around the entire space in tandem and reaches the front lawn space to the right of my front door. I'm in bed when I hear it click on. It's noisy because it hits gravel too. It covered up a lot of the sounds. When it switched off to the next area, I heard a strange shuffling. We have a lot of cats outside though, so I wasn't too alarmed. There's one window at the side of my house that faces the front lawn spots, but it's blocked off by a large entertainment system. It's the only blocked window I have, and besides my bedroom window, it's also the only one not visible from the Ring camera. But all my windows are always locked overnight. The next morning, when I was leaving for work, the window screens were both removed and placed beneath the windows. There were handprints smudged all over the glass. There were no clear footprints, just deep, muddy sloshes. I filed another report, and they were similarly unhelpful, basically telling me I needed a camera and to stay up, to make sure I could see it happen and call in. I didn't even bother contacting Walmart again. They were totally useless. The last thing to happen was when my boyfriend was coming over pretty late. He had worked a long day and came up around 3 a.m. I knew he was coming, but I was woken up by loud fighting outside. He had pulled into the parking lot, and this guy was underneath my car. He scrambled under when the car was pulling in. My boyfriend pretended to walk to the fire and watched him slide out and try to hide behind the parked cars. But it looked like he was messing with my car. My boyfriend had him pinned, and I called the police. There was an AirTag taped under my car. He was trying to track me away from my house. The guy was arrested with other charges too. I didn't hear anything else from it. I gave statements and incident report numbers and was told I might need to testify, but it's never happened. I haven't had any incidents since then though,